With the opening of the door, a stranger man came into view. But the newcomer's eyes were full of anger. He said, "We were supposed to become Sigma males together. Why are you living together with a beautiful girl, you little rascal?" So, after the party, I went back home. Qiu, however, stood aside and had me carry the durian. She said it was for my own good, helping me grow. But in reality, her mind was filled with malicious thoughts. She cheerfully cleaned the room. "Your room is all messy. It's almost like a dog house." As she looked around, she couldn't help feeling that something was missing in the living room. "How about I go downstairs tomorrow and bring back 2 plants to nurture? The jasmine and rose downstairs are growing quite well." But I spoke up on the side, prohibiting it. Those are public property and should not be picked randomly. Besides, this house is rented. Let's just make do. Unexpectedly, she became somewhat angry. "Who wants to just make do with you?" There was some bitterness in her tone. "You don't understand how to enjoy leisurely moments. You really are a boring man. I was just thinking about how to comfort this beautiful girl who is thousands of years old." The next moment, the urgent doorbell sounded like raindrops descending. Before I could open the door, the lock was opened from the outside. A tall and straight man strode in. But when he looked at the scene inside the room, he stood frozen in place. He saw a very beautiful woman. She looked at him with an unfriendly expression, her eyes full of killing intent. He took a step back, feeling somewhat confused. Clearly, he hadn't knocked on the wrong door. Why is the layout of the entire room different? It's only been a few months. How did the previous nerdy roommate become so energetic and rejuvenated? And that woman with an unfriendly face. Isn't she the female fan who suddenly appeared at the party that day? He spoke somberly. "I thought I was the one betraying the class. Never did I expect that it was you who truly betrayed the revolution." The 2 brothers sat facing each other across the coffee table. I felt a bit embarrassed with the durian on my head. My brain was even more chaotic. But Evermore Qiu directly hid in the house, and didn't show up. She had no intention of socializing with mortals. Besides, most mortals would start with, "Sister-in-law is good," as soon as they opened their mouths. I really don't want to hear that. He noticed my uneasiness. Wenjiang was the first to speak up. "Let me give you a key. Keep it for your sister-in-law to use." Qiu silently shouted behind the door. "Who is your sister-in-law?" What's even more frustrating is that Garrick Chu didn't argue back. Instead, he simply acquiesced. She opened her computer in annoyance. She couldn't be bothered with these annoying men. She decided to play games instead. But the 2 brothers outside fell into a temporary silence. Only the sound of Wenjiang pouring tea could be heard. This time, I was the first to speak. "Can you still handle drinking this $10 a bag tea now?" But he didn't even lift his head. "It hasn't been a month since we had good days. It's not that precious." He noticed the doubtful look in my eyes. He stared blankly at the teacup in his hand. Delivering takeout is true. Typing is also true. I am not a second-generation inheritor of family wealth. Just a bastard born to a rich man. I was a bit stunned. Is there still such a term these days? But he just breathed out a sigh. It is very normal for mistresses to have children. Since the wife is more dominant, it happened like this naturally. It's as if nothing had happened to him. Wenjiang's tone was surprisingly calm. "I'm just one of those useless people in the family. Just a poor soul pushed out to take the blame." "Then why do you have to go back? The sky is high and the ocean is vast. There must always be a way out." Wenjiang looked up at the sky and remained silent for a long time without being able to speak. "Brother Chu, do you know? When I first started writing a book, there was only one reader voting for me every day. I was very encouraged at that time. I thought to myself, even if it's just for this one reader, I need to finish writing the book well. I had the same thought when I first started writing a book. Don't tell me that reader is actually a voting bot." "Not a bot." Wenjiang's eyes revealed a touch of tenderness. Even Evermore Qiu in the room did. Put down the mouse and listen quietly. One time, my mom and I were talking about writing a book. That time, she accidentally let slip something. I only found out that my only reader is my mother. The roommate's good friend visited secretly. But the girl hid in the bedroom and refused to see anyone. Just because these men call her sister-in-law as soon as they come in. She is the magnificent Sect master of the immortal cultivation world. How could she possibly marry a mere mortal and become a humble daughter-in-law? But she heard that the two of them want to go out for drinks. But she felt a little disappointed in her heart. Take a look at what I'm doing here. I'm not managing things so strictly. Odd Wen Zhang suddenly came to visit me to reminisce about old times. But I feel that this former good friend is becoming more and more unfamiliar to me. He used to be afraid to even chase away a bug. But now, human life in his eyes is like that of ants. I disagree with his way of thinking to some extent. But he displays an indifferent attitude. Half a year ago. At that time, my brother had a few people come to bully me. As a result, my special ability awakened, and I ended up beating them all down. Since then, I've realized that if you don't harm others, they won't harm you either. It's best to just focus on doing your own thing honestly. We were too naive. I understand the reasons why he gradually turned towards the dark side. It's difficult for people living in two different worlds to still share the same beliefs. But he still raised his teacup. At least you are still persevering in writing. I watch you move towards success. Just like my past dreams have been affirmed. Not even halfway through, he suddenly digressed. Suddenly feeling a bit hungry. How about accompanying me for a drink? Don't tell me you still want to endure this durian indefinitely. And I subconsciously glanced in the direction of Qiu in the bedroom. Since it's a brother's generous invitation, I can always come back and let her beat me up again. But Qiu just hummed in the room. With immortal arts, she naturally could hear the movements outside the house clearly. Odd Wen Zhang still wants to hide things from her. What are you drinking for while watching me? It's as if I'm an unreasonable little daughter-in-law. But Odd Wen Zhang's expression, as he walked gradually became serious. The person who took away Moon's shadow that day. I know it's you. A chill runs down my spine. Although we have been friends for many years, I cannot guarantee he won't harm me for his own benefit. But he slowly lowered his head, as if he could read my mind. Rest assured, I won't harm you. The situation with the Black Fist was not created by me. You know, I just took over. This thing has been around for many years. I'm just a bastard who is shouldering the blame for my half-brother. Dealing with Moon's shadow is also an idea from my useless brother. At that time, Moon Shadow's consecutive wins led to a particularly severe skew in the odds. The company was also constantly losing money internally. So he wanted to get rid of the girl off the court to avoid future troubles. I relaxed a lot. At least I knew that his nature had not been tainted. But he continued to expound under the streetlight. I was afraid of unnecessary complications, so I brought along a few. My brothers followed, bringing the hitman with them. Then you ran into me, right? I sighed. Odd Wen Zhang also nodded in response. So the person beside you at the time was your sister-in-law. The assassin later fell into the hands of Marcius Lin. My father immediately changed the legal person and dumped the mess on me. But this turn of events at the time should be because of you. Why do you say that? Because you went to meet Moon Shadow and connected this line of events together. His voice gradually became indifferent. After all, people cannot disappear out of thin air. It's obvious that you should be very familiar with special ability. So what exactly is your ability? The girl emits a killing intent inadvertently. She made a strong young man shiver with fear. Just because I took a bullet for a good friend. Although my body was not seriously injured. But her eyes were full of blame as she looked at me. You are always so careless. Ordinary mortals still love to show off. Do you want the Sect Master to play the role of a widow for you? Just after a simple exchange of greetings between Odd Wen Zhang and me, I walked with him on the path near the barbecue stall. I asked him why they wanted to deal with Moon Shadow. Her presence is affecting the gameplay, and there are many people who die in such a way in the Black Fist arena. But I do not agree with his explanation. You are committing murder. Even more ruthless than your useless brother. At least he never intended to let a young girl die. But at this moment, he just chuckled coldly. He grabbed the hand that was trying to pull me by the collar. This world is inherently unfair. I considered you a brother, that's why I confided in you. There's no need to try to report me, because you know the police also have no evidence. But I just sighed. Have you really never thought about Moon Shadow's true identity? He seemed to know what I was going to say next. His smile froze. She always wears a mask. You do not know what she really looks like. But odd wind, you almost killed the girl you loved with your own hands. He stood there numbly, completely motionless. A long time later, he spoke hoarsely. You must be lying to me. Moon Shadow is such a cold-blooded fighter. How could he have anything to do with that drunkard next door? If she drinks, it's just to ease the pain. Oddwind Zhang completely lost his voice. I watched helplessly as a man squatted down and curled up into a ball. I could understand his feelings and know the cost of all this. Some things, perhaps destiny has long been destined. But Oddwind slowly raised his head in front of me. Thank you for saving her. Anyway, I can't go back now. I really enjoy everything I have now. The awakening of a special ability is like a pie falling from the sky. The rules of this world are quietly changing. Garrick Chu, you can't escape. But no matter what happens, I will still treat you like a brother. I was just about to say something, but my heart suddenly skipped a beat. There was a very dangerous energy heading towards Oddwind Zhang. I subconsciously stepped forward to intercept. Faint golden light surfaced on the surface of my body. Although I have the protection of the golden bell, but the pain in my chest feels as real as being pierced by a bullet. I weakly fell backwards. At the same time, on a tall building. A man, on the other hand, was full of surprise. How did he manage to block this too? But what he didn't notice was that a woman had stood behind him at some point. The terrifying pupils emanated a cold light in the moonlight. Just a few minutes later, a black-haired girl came floating over, holding a skinny monkey. She threw the man in front of Oddwind Zhang. Handle it properly. If it causes any trouble for us, I won't consider you as my brother. Oddwind Zhang looked at Evermore Qiu in surprise, as it turned out that the very experienced special ability user was you, sister-in-law. This time, Qiu unexpectedly did not retort, but instead revealed a threatening expression towards the man. He saw the two of us not speaking for a long time. He had no choice but to pick up the unconscious man from the ground. Thanks, bro. I will take care of the beginning and the end. Watching his departing figure, I realized that my attempt to persuade him to turn over a new leaf is futile. But Qiu's voice sounded a bit choked up. Why so careless? Have you ever thought about it? With your half-hearted cultivation level, why are you still trying to shield others from danger? What if you die? I have to start explaining. After all, we are good brothers. I can't just stand by and watch without trying to help. Are you actually concerned about me? Qiu paused with her chest heaving, saying nothing. Her eyes stared into mine intensely. In the moonlight, she slowly drew closer to me. Because I'm a little confused. It feels so natural to be with you now. I even care about your feelings a little. How much of my behavior is actually influenced by your words, saying if you want to find someone, find the Creator God. You think everything I do is just predestined. But the time when I pretended to be a female fan, it was my own idea to give you a surprise. Her lips parted slightly. But there was a sentence that just couldn't be said. Looking into her shimmering eyes, I can no longer conceal the impulse in my heart. Just having you is enough for me. Can you stay by my side forever? My respected Sect Master Qiu. Ancient girls were so stubborn and proud. She insisted on maintaining a distance between men and women. But she couldn't help but feel envious when she saw other young couples strolling down the street. She, however, took the initiative to hold my hand tightly. The world you live in is truly strange. Clearly people must get married before doing such things. Just after watching Odwin Zhang leave, Qiu and I walked home together. But she suddenly asked on the side, "It's rare that your good friend has given such a good opportunity. Shall we take a walk outside?" I didn't understand her intention. But she turned her head unfriendly. "If you're not willing, forget it. I still need to go back to cultivate. Besides, if Odwin Zhang finds out, he'll probably be furious. He just broke up. You're going to hit on." She seems to have realized she said the wrong thing. Her voice stopped by itself. Immediately, she hummed and turned her head slightly. I felt a touch of warmth in my heart. Let's rephrase that. This is called a graceful and virtuous woman, a noble man's ideal partner. Anyway, you've known this for a long time. Evermore Qiu's face instantly turned red. He gritted his teeth for a long time without saying a word. Anyway, I'm just a fantasy and a paper person. The love-struck fat otaku. I walked on carelessly. But she protested on the side. I'm definitely not a paper person. Since you say you're not a paper person, I won't have any illusions then. Don't tell me you've fallen for me. Naughty flirt, go to hell. Qiu blushed and started cursing angrily. But when she saw the couple walking their dog in the neighborhood, her hand involuntarily reached out and grabbed mine. "What a pervert," she muttered petulantly. "If you say that again, I won't talk to you." I silently cursed, arrogant Sundara, in my heart. If Odwind hadn't been so shy and had confessed to Moon Shadow directly back then, will the story have a different outcome? That's why they say what needs to be said. Liking someone is nothing to be ashamed of. But Qiu became a little absent-minded. Her heart became particularly complex. She also doesn't know where this emotion comes from. How can emotions be so complicated? Obviously, she used to dislike this guy. The sound of their footsteps echoed lightly on the empty street. She sneakily glanced at the man beside her. What is this guy thinking again? Why did he suddenly fall silent? She always felt that the current atmosphere was a bit strange. But she didn't want to let go of his hand. Or shall we go back? As soon as she said these words, she felt a gentle force on her hand. Stay with me a little longer. Odwin's transformation made her feel uneasy, but she didn't know where to start. The two under the night light remained silent for a long time. Qiu was the first to break the silence. Actually, I asked you earlier what you wanted. I didn't ask you to say those lewd words. What I actually wanted to say is, what kind of world do you want to create? I paused slightly in my steps. I have always loved writing books. I think sharing the stories in my heart is a wonderful thing to do for others. But in the end, I can only present stories that others love to read. What's wrong with writing stories that others love to read? How can I support you if I don't make money? Ugh. Support myself? I couldn't help but be a little stunned. But Qiu continued. I'm just telling you. Your true intention is to create the world in your book. The more rich, detailed, and real your world is, the more qualified you are as a creator god. And in this world, there can be millions of stories. Song Qiu is just one of them. You previously mentioned that characters come before the world. Without me and Song Qiu, the world would collapse. But I don't think so. Even if Song Qiu and I both died, that world would still be that world. By then, you will be a god. So, what's the difficulty for me to exist independently? I suddenly realized. Isn't that the way a group portrait works? Everyone can be the protagonist. Qiu looked at me with a hint of relief in her eyes. But I sensed something amiss in her words. I said, What's wrong with you today? You mentioned death twice in a row. You can't say things like that anymore in the future. She glared at me sideways and asked, Are you commanding me? I won't give in on this matter. Her face turned slightly red. But you don't know what I mean by what I said. Do you want to disappear in that world? Stay here forever? She suddenly became angry and frustrated. Who said I meant that? Stop right there, you little brat. Don't you dare think like that, or I'll beat you to death. Those who have girlfriends all know. How cute is the snoring sound of a girl sleeping? But I still can't believe my eyes. Last night, she was still sulking at me. How come she is lying in my arms today? But just as I was about to hug her, a sharp pain shot through my head. I woke up only to find myself hugging a durian. But Qiu, who stuck her head out from outside the door, showed a sly smile. She didn't expect this transformative spell to be quite useful. She decided to slowly punish him next time. She didn't realize it until after she finished brushing her teeth. The first thing Garrick Chu does when he wakes up is to cultivate. It's just that his posture of rubbing durian is not very elegant. She hummed as she entered the kitchen. You should stop practicing and have a meal. But when I caught sight of the breakfast spread, my expression twitched involuntarily, and my body bent slightly. Do I have to withstand durians today? Qiu gave me a sidelong glance. Do you think I am torturing you? When you have mastered it, this balance thing will be gone. But I do need absolute quiet when I'm typing. My concentration cannot be disturbed by these things. Qiu accepted this statement. If you can refine your qi while typing, it's almost equivalent to cultivating all day. It's much better than doing it only once in the morning and evening like you. Or I'll add another patch. But her expression immediately turned disdainful. Have you forgotten what you wrote so quickly? If it weren't for you, the Sect master would not have been left all alone, meditating in that cave. I suddenly understood. This is just like those idle simulation games. If you can have multiple avatars, then as long as one works to earn money, the original self can still enjoy leisure time with family. She seemed to have understood my inner intention. Her fist was about to land on my forehead the next second. What is the naughty flirt thinking about again? Don't even think about soul splitting. It's impossible to cultivate immortality without a few hundred years. You can try multitasking now to stay focused on two things at once. However, you need to be careful. You must stop immediately if you feel uncomfortable. Could it be that Master is actually caring about me? She snorted without responding. As your fan, I should remind you to start typing. Oh, I see now. So you're addicted to role-playing. I'm not at all. Qiu roared angrily. When she came to her senses, she felt her face flush a bit. What was I just saying? Why did I assume she was his little fan? Seeing her sulking appearance, my heart suddenly had a certain idea. How about you become my operations officer? She was a bit curious. What is an operations officer? It means helping me manage the fan group. Usually check the comments section, organize monthly voting events, occasionally communicate with the platform, as well as create character avatars and character cards, and so on. But my inner thoughts are not like that. Evermore Qiu will shape the identity of a female assistant. Other authors will be jealous when they see it. She held a pig plush pillow with some confusion. What is a character card that you mentioned? That's it. When a character reaches a certain star level, you can make a birthday card for them. As soon as she heard the word, birthday, her eyes lit up. Is it for me? But you don't even have a profile picture now. Let's not consider these for now. I instinctively wanted to rub her head. But after some thought, I stopped my hand. But she didn't seem to notice my movements at all. It seems like she is very interested in this matter. Can I use my photo as the profile picture? That's the job of the artist. However, as the operations officer, you can supervise them. If you are not satisfied, you can make changes. She suddenly became full of vitality. I took on this job. I can't let them draw me ugly. So on the same day, in the fan group, everyone suddenly found out that a new manager had been airdropped. The profile picture is very primitive. It's just a mother penguin wearing a flower on her head. The name is also simple, and just a few words. Evermore Qiu. The girl takes advantage of the man to type words. She secretly looks at the study materials in the fan group. But within 2 minutes, everyone in the group was silenced. Her little face turned red with anger. Birds of a feather flock together, indeed. You lecture people just love watching this kind of unhealthy stuff. At this point, I just realized. At least she is an old lady of several thousand years old. She knows quite a lot about certain things. She is completely different from that pure and innocent ancient girl next door. It turns out that it was after Qiu told me the method of multitasking. I started trying to cultivate while typing. But I felt very strange during this process. I always have a hallucinatory visual experience when looking at the words on the document. It's as if a real world from the book is emerging in front of my eyes. But behind me, Qiu was holding up her phone anxiously at this moment. She called Garrick Chu's name several times without any response. She could only sulkily return to her room. How could this guy get so engrossed when writing? He even ignored me. Meanwhile, in the world of the book, Sky saw Chu in the dungeon. She stared at a wild flower in a daze. Have you noticed that the scenery around us seems to be becoming more vivid? I seem to be able to feel the vitality contained within it. But the cultivator beside him just smiled. This is normal. After all, you are already a foundation establishment cultivator. I felt the same way when I just broke through. Sky Song Chu, on the other hand, remained silent. He was very clear that this had nothing to do with cultivating immortality. Previously, he always felt like there were a pair of eyes watching him. But now, this feeling is slowly fading away. It's as if the fate looming over me is gradually shifting. But I am just a humble foundation establishment cultivator. How can I understand something that only powerful experts who have undergone divine transformation can appreciate? And in the distant Inferno prison, Xander Blaze also opened his eyes in the raging flames. At that moment, just like Evermore Qiu, he also sensed the existence of Heaven's Tao. Originally, Evermore Qiu discovered it earlier than him. He laughed out thunderously. But now you and I are the same. And the other side of me also came to my senses. Just now I simply experienced the world in the book. Now I am increasingly feeling like I am there in person. The destined stepping stone appeared as scheduled in the place of training. The will of heaven always remains there. At this moment, I am no longer like a novelist. With the sound of the keyboard, I realize that I am the god of this world. The fate of each character blooms and extinguishes at the fingertips. People's joys and sorrows, life and death are determined by me. But soon, I woke up in front of the computer. It turns out, I fell asleep while I was typing just now. Unexpectedly, those tens of thousands of words are in order. They lie quietly in the document. I realized that I could actually control the direction of the whole story in the book. If I write Evermore Qiu falling madly in love with the creator god directly, what will happen? But just as I was lost in my crazy thoughts, my thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the urgent ringing of my phone. But as soon as I unlocked the screen, I was dumbfounded. The group is full of members who have been muted by Qiu. Some people had just posted a car emoji, and their emoji was sewn with a mouth by her. I quickly messaged other administrators when I realized something was wrong. But they surprisingly have no objections to Qiu's actions. This female administrator is super fun. At first someone mentioned a license plate, and she asked what it was. Then she went to search for it. Half an hour later, she ran back and banned everyone who mentioned the license plate. She even said that indeed birds of a feather flock together, all are lecher. The expression hidden behind the screen couldn't help but twitch a little. What's the matter with these guys? They're saying the newcomer is a female manager. But the group members don't seem to have any sense of wrongdoing. That female manager is so cute. I feel like her tone is really similar to Cos Evermore Qiu. At this moment, I already felt the killing intent approaching from behind me. I had no choice but to reluctantly pick up the durian again. Qiu frowned, holding her arms. Come clean. What does that cost mean? I quickly explained that it is a modern form of entertainment, dressing up as popular characters. She thought for a moment, and felt that it made some sense. So does that mean I am a popular character? Kind of. But I really dare not to say what those group members are thinking. They even created a group specifically for driving. How twisted can you get? Her eyes look like she's looking at something dirty. Stop hanging out in these kinds of groups. The future platinum group seems very ambitious. I broke out in a cold sweat. Is that the sales team from the sales department downstairs? She wouldn't have been fooled by the stuff that sleeps on the floor today and sleeps on the board tomorrow. But Qiu changed clothes on the side. This world is truly magical. I'm going out to buy some shin paper. I'll also take a look to see if there are any nice bonsai to bring back. I'll call you from the back. Don't take the subway, you can't sit now. But she waved her hand in dissatisfaction. I have checked, I can take the bus. Just need to wear a mask. I have already checked the bus routes. Oh, if it doesn't work out, I'll just disappear on my own. I looked at the suddenly closed big gate. Why do I always feel like she's fleeing in embarrassment? What study material did she actually look at? You just drive, and let Dad come up with the emoji. Drive until she's used to it, numb to it, and takes it for granted. I'll just keep adding more. At the same time on the bus, a solid iron handrail was actually twisted into a spiral by her. Garrick Chu, you are doing it on purpose. You think you can't be muted because you are the group owner, don't you? She just took a look at the study materials in the group. Ancient girls used to squeeze the bus handrails until they made creaking noises. Although she didn't want to bother about these things. But her mind is filled with scenes of kisses and hugs held up high. These lectures are really malicious. Who would do such a thing before getting married? It turns out that just now Qiu made me carry the durians again. She looked at me with ridicule in her eyes. The mighty creator god actually enjoys watching this kind of thing. And yet, I am somewhat puzzled. No one gets angry and blushes at the same time. Could it be that she looked at the study materials shared by her classmates? She tied her hair up in a bad mood. Just reflect on yourself. I'm going out to buy some vegetables. Take a look around to see if there are any nice potted plants. But the way she slammed the door. No matter how I look at it, it seems like fleeing in panic. The pighead has never had good intentions. Evermore Qiu cursed silently in his heart, blaming half on Garrick Chu and half on himself. I actually incited my group members to leave. When I crossed over here in the beginning, why didn't I smack his dog head? She remembered what she had just seen. Her 3 views were seriously shaken. A group of young men and women actually went on a hot spring trip without any scruples. It's really surprising that such things in the demon realm can still be captured and shared with others. Her face was a bit flushed. If she did these things with Garrick Chu. No, what am I thinking? Her eyes gazed out the window. I might be overreacting a bit. Looking at their language patterns, they all seem to be accustomed to these unusual things. On the contrary, it's my words and actions that seem so awkward. A sentence from Garrick Chu echoed in her mind. But how much do you really know about me, Evermore Qiu? She couldn't help but clench her fist. It seems like I really haven't entered his world properly. But the next moment, the driver's voice pulled her back to reality. Miss, we have arrived at the final stop. Qiu then realized that the entire car was empty except for her. Blame that dead pervert with a mind full of rubbish. Shouldn't have thought about him at all. But the next moment, a breeze blew through, disturbing her thoughts. She looked ahead. Different from the city scenery. The fresh atmosphere here makes her feel exceptionally familiar. Although the road is still paved, she finally sees the green waters, green mountains, and vast paddy fields in this world. It's as if she has returned to ancient times. The sun is already scorching on this summer morning. A young man is sweating profusely while working in the fields in a thin shirt. Qiu paused for a while, nodding slightly. She said that in this restless world, people are impatient and unwilling to endure hardships. But in reality, there are still many hard-working people. But as she continued to watch, she slowly felt that something was amiss. The young man working seemed to have a special ability. This kind of special ability is very strange. It is completely different from her cognitive system. The man working turned around. When he saw Qiu, he was almost drooling. He seemed to remember something. He cunningly took out a pen. He turned around and scribbled on his face. Qiu was somewhat puzzled. But when the man turned around, she still blinked in surprise. She somehow found him very handsome. But soon she realized why this guy had the word, handsome, written on his face. It seems that his ability is to change how others perceive him. But how could he deceive the eyes of the immortal maiden of cultivating immortality? The man raised his eyebrows. Being handsome is useless in writing. There was another rustling sound. He directly changed the words on his face to, "Do you like me? You're so charming, it won't kill you to be a little more intrigued." But as soon as he turned around, he was met with a kick from the high-heeled soul. "You dare to use bewitching tactics on me. Even he dare not affect my mind." The young man was kicked and spun in the air for 2 weeks. He half lay on the field groaning. Whose face is this bewitching tactic written on? This nonsense special ability is useless at all. Hey, beauty, don't say it out, I was wrong. Qiu is both angry and funny, but also somewhat shocked in her heart. I used to think that special ability was similar to the single spell in the path of immortality. But now it seems completely different from immortal technique. At the same time, a comment appeared in my fan group. Whoever dares to say getting kicked by a beautiful woman is enjoyable, I'll definitely slap him on the ear. Even if Evermore Qiu shows up, it's not allowed. But no one in the group pays attention to him. Everyone is angrily calling the author a distorter of the original meaning. However, I, reading on my phone, disagree. Come and fight me if you dare. But the next moment, a virtual shadow waved out from my screen. A solid punch hit my face firmly. Fortunately, I didn't feel much pain thanks to the golden bell protection, but my back was sweating cold. Ordinary people would definitely think this is an illusion. But as someone who is aware of their special ability, I have already sensed the danger. In the distant room, a fat man huddled up, clutching his hand. Am I supposed to knock on Boss Chu's door while wearing an iron mask? But at the next moment, his voice turned cold. Here comes the live one again. Speak up, want to die or want to live? The girl is feeling very anxious now. She was cooking just now. Letcher actually came over and praised her for being good-looking. It made her heart race non-stop now. Qiu, who had been out for a stroll, has returned home. But I became a bit confused. How come after being out for so long, I only brought back a piece of dog-tail grass? She glanced at me with displeasure. You're nothing but a piece of dog-tail grass, so you deserve it. Recalling that I missed the station because of Garrick Chu. Her little face became a bit flushed. I won't say it was because I missed the stop and took random pickings. You just don't know how to appreciate it. She spread out rice paper on the dining table. She assumed the posture of an ancient calligrapher. And I couldn't help but feel somewhat surprised. I had never before written about her playing the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, such as the one in front of me now cultivating immortality, giving me a feeling of gradually moving away from the novel. She did not write the poem that originates from her own name. Her expression was particularly calm. When I saw this story, I was thinking, did you create me after all? Is it because I pursued the heavens Tao by myself? Conceived a creator God? I widened my eyes in astonishment. Could the meaning behind her words be that she wants to live independently from me? But she just chuckled in front of me, as if she had guessed my thoughts. What are you thinking? I was just kidding. It's just that I feel like this world of yours is so vast. I haven't even had the chance to explore it properly. Do I need your guidance, Creator God? I could only awkwardly change the subject. Why did you suddenly want to write poetry? But she turned a bit serious. Just for you, silly. The characters I wrote are infused with mystical energy, and hung in the living room can roughly alert intruders, creating a kind of hallucinogenic effect. Today I discovered that the special ability of this world is very intriguing. These abilities can even affect me. What if I go back and you are attacked alone? You went out to pick a dog's tail. The grass encountered a special ability attack. I subconsciously grabbed Qiu's hand. Did I hurt anywhere? Her face suddenly turned a little flushed. I don't need your concern. She's just a little thief after all. Moreover, I am not the heroine in your story. It's not that easy to get into trouble. My heart finally calmed down. What special ability can still affect our Sect Master Qiu? She gazed at my face with her beautiful eyes. But in the end, without saying anything, she leisurely walked into the kitchen. I'm going to cook now. You can go do whatever you need to do. Watching the man scratching his head, a warm feeling passed through her heart. This face is still pleasing to the eye. He looks quite handsome even without writing anything. I don't know when. It seems like cooking for him has also become a routine now. But at this moment, a warmth was felt behind her. Today, you look quite nice. She heard a man's praise out of the blue. She abruptly turned her head. I know very clearly. Why don't you cook? What are you daydreaming about? I quickly pressed the switch on the rice cooker. The small kitchen was filled only with the sound of flowing water. I turned around to look at Evermore Qiu's appearance. It was like having a home. Let's go out and have fun tonight. She looked a little dazed. How did you suddenly think of this? I realized that it's been a long time. Looks like I haven't taken you out to have fun properly. Haven't taken you out to experience some of the things that modern girls should experience.